Riccardi, 10 to 1, 550 KTSA.
Was that the CBS Early Show having that in-depth discussion about the zodiac signs? Boy, how can they be number 3? How can that be? Having an entire segment on the zodiac signs being realigned. What is wrong with this country that's the number 3 morning show? All right, good morning. Jack Riccardi, 10 to 1 on News Talk 550 KTSA for Friday, January 14th, 2011. Fridays mean the gateway to the weekend. That can only happen. There's only one way into the weekend. You've got to go right through Gang of Four. We're going to kick around the big stories of the day and the week with our gang. We're going to invite you to be a part of it on the phones at 599-5555. Fridays also mean this really annoying camera in my face the entire time, held by our producer Taylor. So that's the only downer to Friday is the camera angle. We have a very, very handsome and visually appealing Gang of Four today, though. So, I would say over there, get over there. Joining us from Fox San Antonio, where she's an investigative reporter, making second, third appearance on Gang of Four, I think.
It's the second one.
Yami Vidin. Did I say it right?
Virgen.
Oh, Lord.
It's okay.
I practiced. Roll it a little?
Roll it a little.
Virgen.
Virgen. You got it.
Sounds kind of Russian when I say it that way.
I know. But
what is the nationality of that name?
Actually, I'm Spanish. I'm from, not Spanish, Latina to some people.
Yeah.
I'm me.
You're just you.
Yeah, I'm just me.
That's a beautiful outfit you're wearing today.
Thank
now, will you wear that on television tonight?
Yes, I will.
All
it's
right.
red, so somebody's in trouble today.
You look great today.
Well, thank
Welcome
you.
back to the show. How have you been?
I've been doing good. Covering the machete trial.
Yes. Wow.
Down at the courthouse, we're waiting for the main witness, the guy that says, I was there, but I didn't kill him.
They show those pictures in the courtroom?
It was bad.
Does that stuff bother you anymore, or are you pretty hardened to it now?
You know what bothered me? Honestly, was when they showed the man's hand with his wedding finger. Yeah. And it was all bruised up and broken. And, that makes you stop and think this person was married to somebody or had a partner somewhere.
Yeah.
And he's gone now.
There's connections. This person has connections.
Exactly. Yeah. It's not just a body. It's not just another victim.
All right. Yami Virgen
you got it.
is here. I'm going to try not to say that too often any more than I have to. You should just be Yami.
Yeah, that's it. Just call me Yami.
You're a star.
Oh, no.
All right. Right next to her, Nico LaHood, who was the Democratic candidate for Bexar County District Attorney last year. Nico and I are in close competition to be to be Susan Reed's least favorite person in San Antonio. I may have pulled ahead of you in recent weeks. You think you have it? You think you have it nailed?
For life.
What are you up to these days?
Practicing law, loving my family, just getting back into the swing of things.
What kind of law do you practice?
I'm a defense attorney, criminal defense attorney.
So criminal matters.
Yes, sir.
And you're not like on bus boards and benches and stuff. So
no, not at all.
People find you.
Thank God we get referrals.
Word of mouth, that kind of thing. You don't do any advertising?
Not at this time. I'm not opposed to it. We just don't.
Was the campaign? I guess in a way, the campaign must have raised your profile quite a bit.
I think my identity in the community into different circles that people weren't familiar with me in, but it did. But that wasn't why I ran. But that's one of the, I think, side effects.
Well, we're glad to have you back on Gang of Four. We have a lot of stuff to talk about today. And Stephen Stoli, no stranger to the camera, very comfortable being in front of it, behind it, wherever. Longtime proprietor of the Stephen Stoli Playhouse
and Des Jour.
And welcome back.
Well, thank you. And
what are you up to these
days? I know
days?
now that if I ever get in trouble, Yami will investigate me and Nico can defend me.
We got the whole package here. And I'll talk about you on the air. Libelously.
Whoa,
and never say no comment. Never say no comment.
Okay. All right. I'll remember that. Actually, I've been caregiving for the last 6 months for my mom and my brother. And my mom passed away December 14th. Yes. Yeah. And now I'm clearing things up. I'm going to get an RV, sell the house, and travel for 3 years.
So your life has undergone a major change in the sense that you were so oriented about around being a caregiver. Mm-hmm. And I'm sure to some people they might think, well, it must be a relief that that all of that work and all that worry, but you have to think about the fact that now you got to remember how you lived before you were doing all that. Yeah, it's
very different. I mean, actually going to HEB was an outing to me. I mean, it really was. It was getting out. Right. But if you do it with love, it's okay. If you have any other, if you can't do it any other way, so don't try it.
But you have to figure out a purpose now. You got to figure out a way to orient your day and organize your time.
Exactly. Well, my whole purpose now is that in 2 years, Taylor will be talking about my new movie, the screenplay that I wrote that's coming out, because I've got a couple of them that some production companies are interested in. But I'm going to go off and venture for a while to finish him up. So.
Have you seen his camera work? Have you seen some of the videos?
Oh, yeah. Every week. I do. He is. He's very talented.
Part of me wants to keep him here on the show, and part of me says, move him along so we get the camera out of my face.
Yeah.
All right, look, let's start with this. It's been an incredible week, just like no other we've ever seen before. There are so many angles and aspects to this Arizona story. Of course, we continue to keep a prayer and a thought for those victims and the families. We had the very poignant service for that 9-year-old girl yesterday. Everybody yesterday was talking about the event Wednesday night where the president spoke to that crowd at the University of Arizona. The consensus, I mean, I haven't met one person who didn't think that was a great speech and appropriate and that he really came up big time. A lot of us were puzzled by the audience at that memorial service, the cheering, the ovations, the woot-woot. I mean, what? I don't get it. And people said to me, well, you had to be there, or you have to understand what they've been through, or it's a cultural thing. Was anybody else kind of puzzled by that as you watched it on TV and the speech was very somber and the audience really wasn't?
There's part of it that I think is pretty obvious. There is a release. If you go to a funeral, you can see people standing 5 feet from the casket to the deceased person and telling a joke or a story and laughing, because you need that kind of release sometimes when you've been through a tragedy, and that happens. They may have gone a little way too far over it and made it a pep rally. I could see where they could have some laughter and stuff like that. They probably need it. They probably needed what they went through.
As a survivor of violence and being a victim myself with my brother's murder, I think that you always, in a situation like that, you have to kind of take the lead of the victims and the victim's family, because they're the ones going through that moment, that situation. So I think that's a little inappropriate, in my opinion. I think that you should kind of take the lead from them. Some people during a time of loss want to remember the family, make it jovial. Other people, depending on their faith, are celebrating a new life in heaven. Mm-hmm. And then some people are mourning. There's a grieving process that everybody goes through differently. Mm-hmm. I really believe that the audience and the people that are in that situation, sharing that moment with the family, should take the lead of the victim's family. Mm-hmm. And so that's my advice. That's my experience, and that's what I do whenever I go to a service like that.
Yami, what did you think watching that? Great speech, right?
It was a great speech. I mean... I don't know. Part of me kind of sat there and wondered, who are the people in the crowd? How were they allowed in? Was it a deal where emails are sent out to people that belong to the party? But at the same time, I think the cheering and everything else is sending out a message, and maybe it wasn't the right place to send the message that we're Americans, whether you're to the right or the left, we're Americans. And I think that's kind of what they were trying to send out to the rest of the country.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it may be, that when you're there, you think it's coming across one way, and people watching it on TV are getting it, another way. Now, the way the week began, or the way things began with this story, when we first learned about it on last Saturday, almost immediately there was a spin or a jumping to conclusions. I think we could all agree now that for whatever reason, and whoever started it, and we can talk about this sheriff, we will do that in a minute, but there was an immediate sort of media instant analysis that this must have been the product, this massacre, this shooting must have been the product of the political climate in our country, the recent election, the debate, the way we debate politics, and one of the great things I think the president did in that speech was say enough of that. That is not the case. That is not what happened here. But do we need to look back at how we got that ball rolling so quickly? I mean, Steve, you're a student of the media. Mm-hmm. These victims weren't even in the ambulance yet. They weren't even on the stretchers yet when that began.
Well, I think that's the climate we're in. I mean, that's the way it is right now. And, I think Americans are all very tired of the political thing here where it's always Democrat versus Republican, and nobody can just sit there and say, hey, let's sit down together and talk about this, and so they just throw it out there. Now, granted, there's a lot of time these media people, and nothing against the media because we need them. We need them.
Hey.
But sometimes there's too much. You can have too much. But it's like one time I said to Lamar Smith, I said, if I had a company and I hired people and all they could do was fight and bigger and nothing got done, what should I do with them? He said, fire him. I said, well, that's what the Republicans and Democrats do. They just bicker and stuff like that, and they lead to it. And I've seen them. I've been in Washington where I've seen them actually argue on the floor of the Senate, and then I was at a bar afterwards, and there they were having a cocktail together.
They go to
so
go to lunch
they were
together,
playing to the camera and trying to get their constituents to get all riled up and stuff like that. So they play the game very well.
Yeah, I mean, when you cover stories for a newscast, you've got a very fixed window of time. You've got to leave more out than you can put in.
Correct.
I think one of the traps in modern journalism is this: we got to stay on the air, live and nonstop. We can't break away. We can't do any other stories now. We're going to stay with Arizona for hours on end. I will say, not in defense of these pundits, but maybe by way of understanding them, I think they start kind of freewheeling or what's the word, brainstorming, and really they say things that if you looked at it in print, you'd go, oh my God, I can't say that. There's no basis. I have no evidence for that. You wouldn't be able to do that because you've only got 40 seconds to tell the story.
Exactly, and you got to hurry. And I want to take you back to something that bothered me. I was at the gym working out, and I look up, one station saying Giffords is dead. Mm-hmm. The other network saying some reports, we're not sure yet. I'm sitting there going, why are you jumping to kill this woman?
Right.
I never want to do that as a reporter. There's a family out there that's hanging on to hope, and here I am saying she's dead. And I understand that one, I think, was a congressional office that had told a reporter, you know what, you better triple check, quadruple check that this is true, and you better have somebody with boots on the ground that's right there. If it's not the ME, it better be somebody in that hospital room before you kill them. And I had a huge problem with that. Yeah. I'm sitting at the gym going, are you kidding me?
There really is a divide, isn't there? Listening to you say this, there really is a divide between local journalism, TV journalism, and national. For example, you're very connected to the community. If you screw up, you're going to be meeting people at the supermarket or the gym that are going to know you did that.
Yes.
I think these people in the ivory towers on the national level don't get that. And I also think there's a great pressure to be first and scoop it, and I mean, I don't know if it's is it the same?
Not for us. I can tell you that my boss, Greg Kelfkin, I don't know if you know him, but he will sit there and stop you and put the brakes on you. Mm-hmm. Time out, stop. Let's think about this. Let's talk about it. I don't care if we're first. I want to be right.
I can tell you as a viewer, the public we don't remember who was first with any of this stuff. I don't remember. I don't remember who told me Reagan was shot first. I don't remember.
Who's going to remember
that? It only matters to
that?
people in the business.
Yeah, and here's what people are going to remember. Oh, the people said that the woman was dead and she was...
had to correct themselves.
There you go.
That's what we remember.
Exactly. And are you going to trust them,
So, in a way, Nico, you were in politics. You were in a bruising election. Mm-hmm. What Stephen is saying, in a way, in attempting to blame partisan rancor, they really illustrated the problem, which is that they took the immediate viewpoint that if a Democratic member of Congress has been shot in a massacre, there must be some opposing party angle to it.
I just think that's opportunism at its greatest. It's unfortunate in politics it does that.
But that's how our politics looks.
I agree,
to us
and it's almost like they want to see both sides fight. I know some Democrats that will disagree with a Republican just because they're Republican. Oh, I can't take that position. I'm going against my party. And vice versa. Republicans disagree with Democrats just because they have that party divide. Although off camera, off the air, behind the scenes, when they're having a drink, they agree on an issue. Yep. And I think that you lose your focus on serving the people and you start becoming, like I said when I was here last time, a prostitute to the position. Yep. And you prostitute yourself out. And I think that's wrong. I think you're not being a public servant at that point. And then I asked myself, and I was talking about this the other day with some colleagues, will we be happy when we have members of our Congress fighting on the floor during session, like in other countries? Will that make us happy?
Was it Japan?
It's ridiculous. Well, I mean, that's ridiculous. Yeah. I mean, what are we doing? And the only time we come together as a people is during times of tragedy. In 9/11, no one cared if you were a Democrat, Republican, because none of it matters. And my position, I take it a step further. Our true enemies outside of this country are waiting for us to implode.
But it's funny you bring up 9/11 because I was thinking about that. That was just a decade ago. Mm-hmm. And a decade ago, our political leaders showed that kind of unity spontaneously. Things have gotten a lot worse in just 10 years. They were ready to tear each other's throats out this week.